It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 214. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
214 is a weird number.
It is a weird number. Kodra.
That's because it's 100 off of the first three digits of pi.
Okay.
Also, Commander Keen's nickname.
214 is Commander Keen's nickname?
No, 314 is Commander Keen's nickname.
Okay. Also, hi,
With me,
Thalen.
Bel.
Hey there.
So, we lied. Tonight is not, in fact, the Tacoma Game of the Month show. In fact, we're in the process of sorting out what we're going to do with Game of the Month. It's probably going to change somewhat, but we don't know how yet. So, just as a heads up, if you're, hoping for Tacoma information, you're not going to get it.
We will talk about it eventually.
Yes, we will eventually talk about this game.
Once we've actually played it, but
yes.
Not tonight.
That would be the critical fault in having a Game of the Month show. But what we are going to talk about is the It Matters ad campaign. For the uninitiated, Battle for Azeroth launches in a couple weeks, and for whatever reason, so first of all, I feel like we need to talk briefly about the fact that Battle for Azeroth is trying to double down on a return to RTS era battles.
It's not called World of Peacecraft.
It's not trying to double down. It's like tripling down on this. It is all in on the faction conflict.
Man, okay, so just a quick aside here. I started playing my Paladin to attempt to get it to soak up some of the event rewards, and we'll talk about the event later. And you go through the early quest, and it is this cool experience of, we're going to put aside faction rivalries and races, and we're going to all work together to, fight off the Legion. And it's such a great moment. And Legion started on this amazing moment. And now all of that stuff's gone because rocks? I mean, functionally, we are fighting over rocks.
Super awesome magic rocks?
Super awesome magic rocks.
Okay.
It's just like you remember it back in vanilla, right?
Totally. It's exactly that way, yeah. Somebody stabbed Silithus, and, there's rocks now, and we can't let the other team get more rocks than we can.
Oh, God. The sand.
So this, for whatever reason, they decided to do this super tone-deaf ad campaign called It Matters, where they show two people relating to each other until they find out that the other person wears the wrong faction symbol. And then, my God, we're going to, instead of, being underneath the umbrella with somebody, we're going to step back out into the rain because they're the wrong faction. They wear the wrong color.
In a time where we are so divided amongst rather important differences, I don't feel like we need to inject more artificial division in our culture right now.
That is an extremely valid point.
Yeah.
And all of these things have been, all of these commercials basically are the same, where people are nice to each other until they find out the dirty truth.
Yep.
And there's 4 of them, I think. 4 or 5.
I think, so there's one that's slightly different that I do think is kind of funny. So there one that is not like the others is a couple with a baby that are sort of trying to entice the baby with stuffed animals that represent each faction.
Yeah.
And that one was sort of entertaining because it was less of the oh, I saw that faction symbol on your shirt and now I'm gonna walk away from you, and more just I don't know, sort of a little bit more good-natured, I guess.
Faction pride can be healthy, but most of the time that I've noticed it, it's extremely not. So maybe that's the one ad that actually feels like maybe it's sort of a healthy representation.
Yeah, I have serious faction pride. I like World of Warcraft, and I always am gonna be like for the Horde, right? Like I like the Horde faction, I like the quests, I like the races, I like the lore, like I have faction pride, but watching these stupid ads and like listening to all of the nonsensical build up to this expansion makes me embarrassed about that. Like instead of making me feel like that I want to double down on that and be excited about my faction, instead it's like, ugh, why do I even bother having faction pride? Like it makes me like it less because it's all it is like this nonsensical barrier, and it keeps me from playing with my friends. And because of what they're doing with the story, which we'll get to in a bit, I don't even care as much about that. So like it's just having the exact opposite of the effect that they intended with this.
And I feel like maybe, I mean, I have what feels like a pretty broad swath of people in my Twitter timeline that are in the WoW community. Mostly because like they've also thought it was nonsense whenever I went on my lower the faction wall speech. So like there were people that said that wasn't the best idea in the world. But those same people are like not into the way that this expansion has been presented. In fact, like there's a few people that are almost blindly devoted to this game. I'm not going to name names, but like one person in particular I'm thinking of has been blindly devoted to this game and unwilling to see counterpoints about it. And they have made statements in the last few weeks of that they think they're just done with this nonsense. Like this is going to be the expansion that kills World of Warcraft for them. So I don't think it's playing well with anyone. I'm not seeing a lot of people hyped about how awesome this expansion looks. I mean, there are people that like aspects of it, and I even think I'm gonna like aspects of it, but the storyline is so cartoony.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen no one who is excited about this ad campaign. I've seen some people who are excited about the expansion in the same way that I am, in some sense, which is like, yay, we get new stuff to do, we get to level, and we get new raids, and we get new dungeons, and like story, hooray. But I have not seen many people who were legitimately excited about the story beats that we know about right now. It's just it's a weird place for the general community to be a couple weeks out from the launch of a new expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess that's part of it too, is like even there's been expansions that I wasn't super excited about, but I almost always got some hype right before it. Like it's kind of like the whole Christmas morning thing where for me, like each year it's harder and harder for me to get into the Christmas spirit, but I eventually do. And similarly, it's been harder and harder for me to get into the Warcraft expansion spirit, and I'm still not there. Like I'm playing it, but I'm still not there. Like I am not on board with some of the things that are happening. And this ad campaign is just like so crazy aside. We've gone through some strife at work and some things that have like legitimately hit morale. And for whatever reason, last week they decided to have a luau day where everyone wore Hawaiian shirts. And to me, it just came across as so unbelievably tone deaf that this is the thing that you decided to bring morale, the thing that every sitcom jokes about happening in an IT environment. And I don't know, like this ad campaign for It Matters feels the same to me. It like reads the same as how dumb it was to have Hawaiian Shirt Day.
For me, what's really frustrating is that honestly, this campaign should be turned entirely on its head. If somebody is super serious about Horde and somebody is super serious about Alliance, then you're both super serious about playing World of Warcraft. And that's a point of commonality. I am always for the Alliance, but I am great friends with Grace, and just because we're both repping different factions doesn't mean we shouldn't be friends.
Right? And like, and in these ads, like in any of these situations, if it was me and I was on the bus and I looked over and the guy that I was about to sit next to had an alliance patch on his bag, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna go walk away, and I'd be like, cool, for the Horde, and then sit next to them and probably talk, you know?
Right. Like, I mean, I went to go take my ITIL training, and, like, I was sitting around waiting on the moment when I was supposed to take the test, and, you know, the trainer and I just sat there talking and found out that he was a super serious WoW raider at one point, and he was on the other side of the fence. And we, instead of talking about faction rivalry, we just sat there talking about the commonality of weird stuff that happened in raids. And, like, that was our discussion, not that, like, I raided wearing a blue color and he raided wearing a red color, and that we called, you know, haste buff by different names. Like, that wasn't what we talked about. We talked about all the weird stuff that we had encountered while raiding and the weird personalities we'd encountered. And, like, and that was the commonality. And that's been every time I've ever found out someone else played WoW. It's been a point of comparison, not like a divider.
And honestly, WoW's greatest strength is letting you play games with other people and bringing people together, and this mentality cuts against that, and it's very frustrating.
Yes. Welcome to the experience that I think Bel and I have been having in World of Warcraft for the last several years.
Yes, it's just awkward that, like, there's this wall up for no good reason.
And like you mentioned earlier, Bel, you know, it feels extra awkward on the tails of this expansion where, you know, I mean, every expansion has this element of we're all coming together to defeat the horrible villain of the expansion. But this one in particular, because we had these class order halls, and when you went in there, you were in the Druid order hall with all of the Druids from both factions. And, you know, you still can't talk to them because the game is stupid, but, you know, you were there, like, obviously in the same space working together because you're all Druids, and that's more important than what faction you are. And I mean, now all of that is just pitched right into the bin, and it doesn't feel good.
The thing is like, what made it feel so amazing, this expansion, is I play my Horde characters on Scryers and my Alliance characters on Argent Dawn, which are linked together as the same server. I've been playing a warrior since vanilla. Like, it wasn't my main until BC, but like I've played a warrior since vanilla, and I know a lot of warriors that are still around from those days, like Wargallow. And it was fun to constantly be running into people you knew in the Order Hall, regardless of what side you were on. Like, if I was on Belgast on the Alliance side, it was a regular occurrence that my friend Bovin, who plays a Tauren, would come over there and, you know, emote hugs and things like that whenever I'd see him on that side. And then seconds later, I'd see a BattleNet tell from him. Super excited to have seen each other actually in game. And that felt great. Like, that was so awesome. And then to tear all that down with just this nonsense, and it's over stupid reasons.
Holy cow, Bovin still plays?
Bovin still plays.
That was my reaction.
Yeah, no, he and I talk on a weekly basis at least. Like it's either in-game or, you know, we have each other on Google Hangouts. So, yeah, like, he still raids with... what, Brotherhood of the Blade, I think is the name of the guild that he was in.
Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, I just know it's BOTB, but I don't remember. Like, I think it's Brotherhood of the Blade. But yeah, I mean, like, there's still tons of people, Horde side especially, from the olden days. Like, I've seen Tower in game on the Alliance side. It's just that felt so good, though, because, you know, when you play a class for a really long time, you know other people that play that class because you swap tales or, you know, tips and tricks and things like that. Mm-hmm. So to see these people on both sides of the fence, it was so great. And now it's just gone. and now we're back to fake hating each other.
Yeah, see that caused you to think about them as actual people, and you're not supposed to. They're just supposed to be targets for you to murder. Yep.
So I think we'll get around to this a little bit more when we talk about the actual reasons that this event has, brought to light. But I also want to talk a little bit about the what is it, Warbringers campaign? I think it's Warbringers.
Yeah, Warbringers. So it's a series of 3 animated shorts, and it is telling and troubling that the 3 people that they are highlighting with this are Jaina, Sylvannas, and Azshara.
First 3 rates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like let's make some videos about really powerful females that we're probably going to turn into raid bosses because we're out of ideas.
I mean, I am super excited to see all these, especially after seeing the first one, which we'll talk about in a sec. But it doesn't give me warm, fuzzy feelings like it ought to, because when I see these 3 paired together like this, with this kind of focus, and in a style that's essentially what they used for the videos they did about
each of the orc clans,
the orc bros.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be excited about this. Like, the first one that we've seen so far was super cool, and I am excited to see the other ones, but I am not excited to fight any of these. Well, okay, I'm excited to fight Azshara as a raid boss. That would be awesome, but not the other 2.
I totally want mages to have a Sea Witch spec, though.
Seriously, I would definitely main mage if they had a Sea Witch spec.
Yeah, so if you've not seen the video, it's basically this sea shanty that plays as we're watching scenes of Jaina, and I guess to some extent it's showing things that happened in the past when her father lost to the Horde or to the orcs.
Yeah, it was in the Horde, the founding of Durotar campaign of World of Warcraft 3. Rexar killed him.
And we're watching this, and the thing is, like, I'm not sure how much of this video is, like, legit and how much is metaphor, because obviously, she's on a boat with, a Charon-like character, taking her across the river Styx, and then at the tail end of the video, she essentially raises the Proudmoore, ship from the depths, and Charon is revealed to be her father. So I'm not sure if that was real or if that was allegory or...
And she says she's ready to listen now to her genocidal dad. So
yes,
I have a concern.
Right. I mean, so they've clearly set her up to be a raid boss. Like, just straight up. That's what you do with raid bosses. You show the vengeance that they're going to wreak upon everyone else.
I remain annoyed that she went from the reasonable let's work together character to the next raid boss over the course of, 2 expansions.
Right. Yeah, because it absolutely started in Legion.
Well,
no.
It sort of started in Draenor.
Yeah.
The whole Dalaran thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so did that actually... I was thinking that started in Legion, but no, I guess you're right. That was the pre-event, kind of.
The bombing of Theramore,
that's what started
where this started.
Yeah.
And then we just didn't see much of her for a while, and when we finally did, she was pretty pissed. And I never even really liked Jaina that much as a character. I know there's people who do, and I can see why, but I just A, I'm a Horde fangirl, but B, I never got that into her. And this video makes me mad because this video is freaking cool, right? The short was really cool. It made me really like her as in her powers, even though she's doing things that are out of character for her. But it was cool. It made me excited to see where her story is going until I stop and think of where her story is going, and I really don't want to see her as a raid boss.
World of Warcraft does not know what to do with characters. And it never really has.
Sooner or later, we have to kill them.
Or we get really annoyed of them.
Yeah, or we either have to kill them, or we
We
make
wish we
them the
could.
chosen one, or sometimes we do both.
So we've had Garrosh, we've had Varian.
We've had Illidan.
Illidan.
Yep.
We've
Yeah,
had
Illidan again
Arthas.
Big one,
now.
Arthas. Yep.
Yeah. I wouldn't say any of those characters were handled well.
No, they really weren't. I mean, they even took like one of the most genuinely good characters and turned him into an edgelord in the form of Bolivar. Because
But
like
you're
he,
talking about Anduin.
no,
Not yet.
not yet. But
That's
like,
coming.
but Bolivar is like Bolivar Lich King is like the edgiest person ever.
Yeah.
And like you only really get to see that if you do the Death Knight Order Hall series, but no, Bolivar Lich King is super edgy.
I mean, that was a really cool little campaign, but yeah.
So that entire scene made no sense whatsoever when during Lich King. Like, no, what? Why? That's dumb.
Okay, so I feel like I guess the time is to talk about like the supposed reason why we're doing this nonsense.
Yeah, and maybe talk a bit about the questing so far. So spoilers if you haven't started the War of the Thorns quest content. Wow.
Which even the name sounds horrible.
That sounds like very, very close ripoff of a Guild Wars 2 expansion.
That or something that would happen in Game of Thrones.
So basically where we are is in the final fight of Legion. What is it, Agramar?
Sargeras.
It's actually Sargeras at that point that's doing it.
Sargeras is in the process of getting subdued by Illidan and all the Titan whatever. Anyway, like they're subduing Sargeras, and in the last throws before he's subdued, he takes a freaking gigantic sword and throws it at Azeroth. Right, and like luckily hits the middle of nowhere and still exists.
Oh, of course.
But it effectively causes Azeroth, the Titan soul that we know of, to start bleeding. And bleeding out this mineral called Azurite, which can be used to do all these crazy things, yet they don't really know how to use it yet.
But we decided Azurite was giant poop. Didn't we have a quest about that?
Yeah. But it's changed. it's Azeroth poop. Actually, it's Azeroth blood.
It's Azeroth blood, yeah.
Oh no,
And,
this is Azurite, not Azurite. They're different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're totally different.
totally
Okay.
different thing.
So legitimately, like, we don't know what to do with, but as the Horde, we want to make sure we get it before the Alliance do.
So I don't know. So spoilers for the novel, the tie-in novel.
Well, no, hold on a sec. Wait. This story is from a tie-in novel?
Well, some of it is from in the game. So within the game, we see the sword get plunged in, and then we find out like, hey, the goblins found this stuff. They think it's pretty cool, and Sylvannas gives them free reign to go and get as much as they can and figure out how to use it. But in the novel, it's a little bit clearer what it is, because you don't really get a sense of it from in the game. And so basically, anytime anyone touches it, it gives them insight. It's sort of like Kajamite on steroids. So the stuff that goblins use to give themselves inspiration, it's like that, but like super awesome extra.
But not in the form of a cola.
Not in the form of a cola yet.
Okay, and so apparently this is also the excuse for why the artifact weapons don't do anything special anymore.
Yeah, we use the artifact weapon to draw off some of the power from Sargeras' sword, so that so that the wound could maybe start healing, because the sword was actively preventing that. And this is a whole other terrible idea, because hey, like some of those weapons are like pieces of an old god and stuff. Maybe this isn't a great thing to do, empowering them, but whatever.
But we're not going to talk about those bad ideas yet. There's other bad ideas to discuss.
There's so many other bad ideas.
So basically, like, what you're presented in game is that there's this unobtainium that's out there, and we want to make sure that we get more of it than the Alliance gets. So in order to do that, we're going to, hit the Night Elves where it hurts, because Night Elves love Malfurion?
I'm not sure that's actually true.
No.
Look,
no. So there is. So I was relieved a bit, because what we knew was going to happen here, and still has not happened in game yet, but we know is coming, is that Teldrassil, right, like the giant world tree of the Night Elves, is gonna burn.
The giant failed world tree.
Yes, it's gonna burn. And I was super worried that this was gonna be, we're gonna go in and Sylvannas is gonna say, hey, we're gonna go burn down the world tree today, go.
As someone who started playing WoW as an Alliance Druid, that thing can burn to the ground for all I care.
Yeah, I my very first character was a Night Elf Druid, and yeah, I'm okay that it burns down, but I'm not okay with the War Chief of the Horde being so actively aggressive for reason. But at least in the quests in the game, there are slightly better reasons. So the idea
there's
here,
really not.
well, I mean, the idea here is that that's the Alliance's last stronghold on the continent, and if they can cut it off, then they don't have a shipping lane to get the magic rocks back over to Stormwind, where they can start doing stuff with it. And so we're trying to go and occupy the city to prevent them from using that port. So, like, tactically, it's less crappy of an idea.
I mean,
but also, let's kill Malfurion because reasons, and I am 100% on board with
right,
that.
But the problem is like, okay, so had she really presented it as, we are going to strategically cut off the Night Elves, that's not what she did. She started off with the whole, let's just go kill Malfurion, because reasons. Like, it kind of swept the tactical advantage of doing that under the rug. Or at least it felt like it did.
I am kind of also on board with this plan, but yeah, maybe not really the right place.
Well, but the reasoning for killing Malfurion doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that was really out of the blue. It's like, it's gonna demoralize them, and it'll make it easier for us to occupy their city, because they'll be sad.
The assassination of a leader has never done that in history.
Ever.
Yeah, bad plan.
That has never happened before.
Also, did something happen to the Exodar? Is it not there anymore?
So the Exodar is still there, but the Draenei, shot a chunk of it off into space in the last expansion, so...
Oh, okay.
It's maybe not as fully manned as it was. And no one ever remembers about the Exodar anyway, come on.
Yeah, no. Like, it's not even on the same server, instance-wise.
You can't even fly there. Yeah.
I mean, like, no one cares about the Exodar or the Ghostlands.
But, maybe what will happen is that, we'll sweep in and kill Malfurion, and the Night Elves will be so happy that they'll join the Horde. That could happen.
That could happen. No one likes Malfurion. I feel like we lost the better brother. Nobody likes Malfurion.
I mean, he's better than the previous dude.
Yeah, but that's a really, really low bar.
Yeah.
Also, he's already had his turn as a raid boss.
Yeah, Firelands.
Yeah.
Wait, who's had his turn as a raid boss?
Daghelm, the former druid leader.
Oh.
He gave me a pouch, and now I can be a fire kitty.
Yeah, fire kitty powers. So
He drops a cosmetic item that druids can
I
use
mean,
with fire kitties.
I feel like that immediately puts him ahead of Malfurion.
It's fair, yeah. Unless Malfurion drops something useful for me as a kitty.
If you can be a fire bird because of Malfurion, then maybe.
I would expect it to be a bear thing, but I don't know. I guess he does have wings these days. He looks different than I remember.
Anyway, this whole thing is just a giant pile of, odd decisions, odd bad decisions.
Okay, but then there's a whole sequence of events that just makes no freaking sense. Okay, so the Horde decides to mass their forces in the Northern Baron. Now, for whatever reason, the Alliance seems to think that means they're sending their forces to Daenerys? Not Daenerys, Silithus.
No, so Sylvannas knew, or suspected, and it was confirmed in the Alliance side of the quest chain, that Orgrimmar is infiltrated pretty thoroughly by Alliance spies. And so they made every effort to convince those spies that they were marching on Silithus. So they weren't really keeping the army in the Barrens. They were marching and basically marched to the crossroads, giving every indication that they were heading for Silithus. So, like, that piece of it makes sense.
Okay, I remember that significantly less better than you do. But anyway, so they do this thing where, like, the Night Elf forces decide to take the bait and go to Silithus. And that allows them to march into Ashenvale and just lay waste to Ashenvale. And then they continue on up into Darkshore and lay waste to Darkshore. At which point Malfurion erects a bubble to keep them out, and the Horde kind of mash themselves against the bubble real quick. And then Sylvannas, I'm still not exactly sure what she did, but she somehow put herself with her Banshee Queen powers to create an opening in the bubble.
So we found out that if we attacked, like, the woods around the bubble, the wisps that were making the bubble got all upset, and it made the bubble slightly weaker. So when we did that, then Sylvannas could use her magic Banshee powers and let us sneak through. I'm surprised I remembered this stuff this well, considering that after the first time through, it gives you the option to skip it on all your alts, and I happily skipped all of the story on all of my alts.
Right, yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I've done this exactly once, and I clearly don't remember things that well. So the Alliance side is us basically fighting back against the encroachment of the Horde. And I'm expecting, like, the next one will be the Alliance makes some offensive move and the Horde fights back.
So, I mean, we know, like, there's two places where this is all going. One of those places is that we know that the tree is going to burn. And the other thing that we know, basically from the trailer for the expansion and other reasons, is that it's going to end with the Alliance taking back Lordaeron.
Right. Yeah, so basically each faction losing their main city on the other faction's continent.
Yep. And I don't know, like, I want to take an aside to talk about the novel, I guess, for a second here. Bel, have you read it?
No, but the likelihood that I'm actually going to read it is pretty nil. I'm not a huge fan of WoW novels.
So I actually enjoyed this one, and it does some things that make me really angry in the context of knowing how divisive they're making this expansion story. Because there's some interesting tangential things that happen in this novel. For instance, we meet a goblin and a gnome who are a couple. They were married, and then in the story, then they, like, got back together again after splitting up. And it was, like, really sweet. This, like, cross-factional little bit of, like, adorable small person romance.
That's cool.
And, like, making weird inventions together and being super cute. Like, it was neat. And the other thing that happens in the novel, which is something that I've wondered about and kind of wanted to see for a long time, is that they actually broker a way to have some of the Forsaken meet their living relatives. And it's actually, like, a really cool moment. Like, it's this sort of thing that you think about, like, these undead aren't just random zombies. Like, they're the citizens of a particular place, and many of them still have living family, and some of those living family don't want to see their rotting parents or children or what have you, but some of them did.
And the thing is it's not just like this is a generation ago or whatever. This is, like, still within the same generation, given it's what there were, like, 30 years or so between the games and this game, and then not much time has passed in this game, it feels.
Right.
It was only like less than 10 years between the end of Warcraft 3 and WoW.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Maybe.
3 or 5 or something like that.
For whatever reason, I was thinking 30, but you may be right.
Yeah, I don't actually think it's very much. And then in game, it hasn't been very much. I think each expansion has been about a year canonically.
Yeah, it's been World of Warcraft started approximately 10 years after the forming of the Scourge, apparently.
So I mean, so you have this like cool moment, and then in gigantic spoilers for the book, but one of the humans who isn't meeting family for reasons which will be apparent in a second, but was a priest and wanted to be there was oh god, her name Calla Menethil, right? Like her
Yeah.
sister, who is, has a legitimate claim to Lordaeron. And this maybe pisses Sylvannas off a little bit. And this is where, like, as much of a Sylvannas fangirl as I am not thrilled with what they're doing with her right now, because she was smart. She did not break the truce, the ceasefire that they had in place for the day. She just murdered all of her own people on the field as they were meeting their relatives because they saw Calla Menethil and tried to defect to the Alliance. So they're also setting up Sylvannas for the rape cost treatment here. And they already have a successor in place.
So I'm going to go off on my pipe dream. And this is not going to happen because Blizzard is not this clever. But my pipe dream is that this entire expansion has been sold to us as a hardcore PvP experience. And it would be cool.
Right there.
No, I mean, like, it would be cool if they switched this on its head. Like, so imagine they're setting up this expansion where, like, each of the factions is doing a ton of atrocities. And it would be amazing if we, as the player, decided that enough was enough and that we were going to start a rebellion against the leaders of the Alliance and the leaders of the Horde. And the end result would be, like, a new faction that was all of the people who were tired of fighting, and ultimately, like, the falling of the faction wall.
I'm just saying that
it's never gonna happen.
No,
I'm just saying,
not even like, that. Like this expansion being sold as the bringing back PvP and hardcore, so on and so forth. That has always been the minority.
Yep.
So I'm not sure where this was going.
I'm really curious. Are they actually bringing any interesting new PvP into WoW?
The entire world, like, basically, there are two worlds now where you have PvP world and you have non-PvP world.
Yes, they're called Feluca and Trammel. Oh, wait.
Are either of those worlds the, vanilla, like... Wait, are we fighting back on Azeroth, or are we fighting in a new world?
No, we're still on Azeroth, and they've done a bunch of things. Like, they haven't done anything, as far as I can tell, actually interesting and new with PvP. What they have done is just really incentivize the hell out of it. So the way PvP works now is you can be on whatever server you want, but you go to your home city, flip a switch, and it turns on or off world PvP. And when you do that, you get shunted to a server version that is just people who want either PvP or not PvP. So, like, that part's fine. Like, the technology is great, and I'm glad it exists because now I don't ever have to worry about PvP.
Okay, so nasty side effect of that, though, is all of those heirlooms that came from the PvP vendors only work if you're in PvP mode.
What?
Yep.
Yeah. So
those weren't evenly divided before. Like, that was the only place you could get some.
No, so I'm gonna have to pay to upgrade, like, another locket or another trinket, because one of the ones I always used was a PvP one, apparently.
And there's other annoying things. So they now, for PvP, you get a couple of PvP specific talents, which is a cool idea. Some of them really make the playstyle of your class feel pretty different, and they will only work if you have war mode turned on, so if you have PvP turned on. So that's a little frustrating. And then on top of that, they're incentivizing it even more by giving a boost to, was it 10%? I don't remember because I will never use it. But they're giving a pretty substantial boost to XP and like gold rewards or something else if you have PvP turned on.
We will pay you to be content.
Yep.
Okay.
Still never gonna touch it.
It has been 18 years since Ultima Online split their world into a PvP and non-PvP server, and everybody went to the non-PvP.
I don't know anyone who's turned on war mode.
Why do they think it will be any different?
I mean, the only people I know who are willing to do it are the ones who look at the fact that in the first couple of weeks of the expansion, the two factions are going to be leveling on basically different islands. And until, a couple of days when a critical mass of people hit the level cap and can switch over to the opposite island, you're going to be mostly...
realize that they can take advantage of this.
Yes, exactly. And I might even do that for the very first day, but the second I see someone of the opposite faction, I am hearthing back to Orgrimmar and turning it straight off and never looking back.
Is there any, I don't know, incentive to actually fighting people?
Yeah,
there's some gear rewards.
Yeah,
Maybe
you get
again.
honor, and then there's like some sort of system where if someone is killing a bunch of people, then they basically show up like a world quest for the people of the opposite faction to come and hunt down. I don't know, none of that sounds appealing to me, so I didn't really look too deeply into it, but it is a thing that exists. They are definitely bribing people to become content.
So World PvP has always existed? It's just never been good?
Yeah, it's always been garbage.
There was no reason to ever do it, was sort of the issue. There just wasn't any incentive. You did World PvP because you wanted to grief people. And so the only people who did World PvP were griefers. It was awful. But I haven't heard why a person who's like, sure, I'll play on a PvP server where, other people who might not be griefy jerks might also play on a PvP server and will sort of coexist, but why do I fight that person? Why don't we just both say, hey, plus 10% XP?
Because their name is
tip
red.
my hat to you, let's go on our way.
At least that's hope. Because their name is red.
I mean...
If it's red, it's dead, right?
So the funny thing is the only time this game has ever convinced me to actually PvP was during Burning Crusade, when PvP gear was really good, viable raiding gear.
Mm-hmm.
And I formed an arena team, and we would get our losses in, because we weren't great, but every other week, it allowed us to buy a piece of gear. So it sped up our raid gear acquisition. And through a combination of defense and resilience, you could become crit immune. Like, they both worked and did functionally the same thing. So... I think it was resilience. Wasn't that the name of the PvP? Whatever the PvP stat was. That was
resilience.
The does less damage. But anyway,
crit damage.
that was when I was PvPing. It was just a way to get gear slightly faster than and mitigate the fact that occasionally there were items that I never could get to drop in raids.
Yeah, I PvP'd in Alterac Valley back in vanilla to get an epic mount because that was a much cheaper epic mount.
I did Alterac Valley. I did Alterac Valley exactly long enough to get to whatever rank it was that allowed me to buy ice arrows. Because they were better than any of the options I had, and I could just go to Alterac Valley outside and buy them before raids.
Back in the days before you could trade in for thorium arrows.
I did the minimum PvP that I was required to do to get my fancy purple proto drake for the achievement.
Yep.
And to get my my cloak in the legendary cloak in Mists of Pandaria, and that was it. And that was misery.
I'm not ideologically opposed to PvP. In fact, I found some implementations of it quite interesting. I just think WoW has terrible, and nothing I'm hearing is making me think that it's going to feel anything more like the war that they really want there to be.
Nope.
I believe you're correct.
And the thing is I'm not completely against PvP modes either, because I mean I played the Crucible in Destiny and Destiny 2, and I enjoy it.
I mean, I don't love PvP, but I played a ton of PvP in WildStar and actually enjoyed it there.
It felt fun in WildStar.
Yeah, it doesn't feel fun in WoW.
It feels more like, and honestly, this is probably because that's sort of how PvP sprung up in old MMOs. It feels more like banditry.
Yeah.
Like, you're wandering around and you're beset by a bunch of ne'er-do-wells who kill you and then go on their way.
I mean, at least in Ultima Online, they were killing you so they could take your stuff.
Sure.
In World of Warcraft, they don't even have that excuse.
But you're rarely, when you're going into, like, PvP, it's rarely going up into a fair fight.
Correct.
Right, because if it's a fair fight...
The aggressor does not want a fair fight.
Exactly.
And it doesn't seem like you have the density of people fighting to have, like, an actual battle going on.
This is...
Yeah, that actually, that was the other PvP that I did take part in back in vanilla, was the never-ending fight between South Shore and Terran Mill.
And we only did that because we were bored.
Yeah, but that actually felt like a battle. Like, it was, two lines, just kind of like way off from each other, just kind of hanging out until either somebody pushed forward too much or the other decided it was time to charge forward, and then one or the other got pushed back to their town.
But, okay,
Repeat
so
ad infinitum.
the reason why that worked is because we knew the people on the other side.
Yes.
Like, it was a point of pride and honor against a group of people that we knew, that we hung out on the forums with, that we hung out on IRC chat with during the day. Like, we knew the Horde players. They were our friends. It was a friendly rivalry. For the most part, like, we all knew each other. Like, we were rivals in trying to see who could clear the dungeons. We were rivals in who could hold, South Shore. It was because we knew the enemy. That doesn't work when it's just a bunch of faceless people that you're smashing. And I think the glory days that people think of as that are only because it was a magical moment in time where that worked. And it'll never happen again. Like, the same was true for a lot of the PvP I had in Dark Age Camelot. The big guilds on either side knew each other and, posted jabs at each other on forums and things like that. And again, it was a point of pride to see if you could take this mile fort or whatever from the people on the other side. And the way that PvP works now, to where it is largely anonymized, I don't think it's ever gonna feel as epic as people seem to want it to feel. And I keep going back to, like, so I remember when Burning Crusade came out, there was an interview with some of the devs from the raid team, and they were talking about how that they wondered why they spent all this time on Naxxramas when only 3% of the population saw it. I'm wondering what percent of the population they just spent all this time working on War Mode for, because I don't think it's going to be a big percentage.
Yeah.
So the people that I know who are the most excited about War Mode are people who rolled on PvP servers because that's where their friends were, and then hated being on a PvP server because now those people can turn
they're
PvP
excited
off.
because they can turn it off?
Yep.
I'm
Those are
excited.
the people who've been most excited about it.
I'm excited for that reason too, simply because, like, when War Mode is off, you can never accidentally get flagged. Like, nothing can flag you if you're not in War Mode.
the
I
normal,
mean-
like, going in the other faction cities and shooting up their guards and stuff will still flag you, I believe.
I don't know. I need to try it because I thought that didn't flag you anymore either. You just got killed by guards. I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure, but I thought that you would still flag if you went into the major city. I could be wrong. That would be weird.
Let the
Kinda
horde,
cool.
actually walk to the stockade.
Okay. While we're continuing on talking, we're going to do an experiment real quick. Since I happen to be in game, we'll try and log into somebody that I can get to a town where that would normally flag me.
I mean, I would find that weird and entertaining if it were.
It would make certain achievements a lot easier.
Yeah. But like that's that's the good part that I've seen of adding this is not all the content that they think they're making. It's the, oh, thank God I can finally play with my friends on this server and not have to worry about getting constantly griefed or just annoyed trying to do dailies or world quests or just like get ready for a raid. I can do normal things without getting murdered all the time.
I mean, and my hope is, like, honestly, things like the Green Plague, when you've, queued into a zone, or like, say you've joined a raid, and like a PvP player joins the raid, and now everyone's flagged, and then you come back out of the raid, flagged. I'm hoping moments like that are just over.
Yeah, I think moments like that should be over.
This all sounds like great quality of life improvements that are in the opposite direction of what is desired.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't, like, maybe I am in the minority. Maybe there's some, like, swarm of people who are super excited about this, but they are not amongst my sphere of influence. They're not amongst my Twitter friends or in-game friends or anyone that I've talked to about this expansion.
My expectation is that a few weeks, maybe a month in, you're going to be seeing PvP players online complaining about how there's nobody around to kill.
All our soft targets went away because nobody wants to go into war mode anymore.
Nobody wants to be sheep, so there's nobody left but the wolves, and there really aren't that many of them.
Okay, I am just about to fly into Winterguard Keep on my Horde Hunter.
I don't even remember where that is.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm actually I am PvP flagged. However, the second I left the town, I think I am no longer PvP flagged.
Okay.
So that works.
No, I have a timer, but I have like the 5-minute timer, so it works the same.
Oh.
It temporarily went away, but like now there's kind of a hidden timer that's happening.
I mean, I just hope that like this keeps people away from being stupidly annoying and griefing. Like, one of the things that has been miserable for a while is that people like to go and kill, quest givers on Hellfire Peninsula because it's a bottleneck. Now, of course, it's not a bottleneck anymore because they changed the way leveling works. So that's good, but be nice if, this change to PvP meant that all the people who would be doing that get shunted to a different server when they start acting like dumbasses.
Oh, okay. So interestingly enough, it did not turn on war mode. So
no, war mode can only
be
turned
flagged.
on from a city.
I may be flagged, but I will only be seen by PvE players as flagged.
There doesn't seem to be a lot of point in that.
That's yeah.
I mean, sure, like, if I go somewhere I'm not supposed to, I can get slapped down for free by someone else that's also in PvE mode, but I would imagine my likelihood of just being able to carefully skirt away is higher in non-war mode groups. I don't know, one will see. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is I can't say I have a wide breadth of the WoW community anymore because, like, most of the people I play that or follow that play WoW also play lots of other things. So I can't say as how I'm maybe got great representation in the true feelings of what the community is, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff from people that are normal stalwart supporters of the community saying that they are not completely on board with this expansion.
And I'm curious to see where it goes. Like, maybe they'll surprise me. And, in the past, expansions that I thought were going to be kind of terrible turned out pretty decent. So, maybe it'll be alright. I mean, the last time I was this... Okay, so the last time I was this unenthusiastic about an expansion was probably Warlords, and it was pretty bad. But the leveling in the story was good. This expansion, so far, what I've seen of the story does not seem exciting.
I mean, I do like the Zandalari, and I like the Kultirans.
Like, I'm super excited to be able to play those races. Like, I want to be a Dino Druid. Like, yes, please, sign me up. But I don't know what's up with this story.
And we've said this before, but like the best part of Legion was everything but the one zone where you had to do faction stuff. But we have somehow spent an entire show talking about Battle for Azeroth, which comes out in, I think, 2 weeks.
It's like the old days.
So while we may not be down with it, we're definitely down for, poking at it.
I mean, I'll be playing it, and then I'll probably be complaining about it. And then I'll probably still be playing it while I'm complaining about it, because that seems to be my relationship with World of Warcraft.
I mean, the thing is like, I could say that I wouldn't play it, but it would be a lie. Like, I know I'm going to play it. I've played all of the expansion. Even the ones I said I wasn't going to play, I played.
The only thing that I can say with confidence is that if they end up making Jaina and Sylvannas into raid bosses, then I am officially done. Like, that will be the last straw for me. Like, I can't imagine wanting to continue playing the game. What I will probably be doing, and what I'm already doing, is greatly looking forward to the WoW Classic servers. That's another whole conversation.
Indeed.
I will say it's going to be interesting because this is going to be the first expansion I play maining Horde.
It's an odd time to make that choice.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like nothing against House Stalwart. Just it feels weird to play in House Stalwart right now. And I largely feel more comfortable hanging out Horde side at the moment.
But it is funny because a lot of people that I know who are diehard Horde folks are so unhappy with the way the story is going right now that they're either leaving the game or switching to Alliance or just kind of grumbling a lot like me. I know a lot of people who are super excited to be Horde right now.
I mean, I'm about as excited to be Horde as I am to be playing WoW, so... But I like the people Horde side. I mean, they've always been super great to be around. So I'm not exactly sure how deep we can get into another topic at this point. So recently Magic Arena had a Break Things event where they handed out, like, for whatever reason, I got 10 beta keys, and I handed them out as best I could to try and help get the breaking of things to start. And for the most part, things seemed pretty stable. I was in for, I don't know, about 35 minutes, 40 minutes during that event. They were running several specials. There was this crazy special where you got like 2,500 gems, 5 packs of cards, something else for like $4. And then they were also, I don't remember what the price cut was, but I think drafting was like 320 gems or something like that. So less than normal.
Half off.
Yeah, I think it was probably half off. So they were doing M19 drafting, and I am not terribly good at drafting, like at least nowhere near as good as you are, Kodra. But I managed to go 3-3, which is like literally my best draft record ever. I have a bad habit of always trying to draft green and black since I love green and black, which doesn't always work. But there was a combo that I was playing that was a rather expensive combo. And I forget the 2 cards. One is like a 0/3 vampire that you can tap to deal damage to an opponent. And I had 2 rather expensive vampires that anytime your opponent took damage, it also dealt damage to them from them. And I had like a couple of them stacked up, and I kept tapping the one vampire to deal the 1 point of damage and get 1 life, and then the other 2 vampires would trigger and deal 1 point of damage each and get 1 more point of life each. And like I had that was the winning condition in a couple of the matches, to where I just kept doing that over and over and they couldn't stop me. Because there doesn't seem to be as much really good removal in M19 as some of the other draft sets, or at least it seems harder to get, because like I had almost no removal to speak of.
I actually am not sure how good the removal suites are in M19.
I know there's Terror, or I think there's Terror, but I did not get one, obviously. My problem is I don't know the various expansions as well as I should to really be successful drafting. So I'm not really sure what to ever build into. So I try and just like evaluate the cards as they come and make something functional. I don't think I've ever lost. I don't think I've done a draft yet where I've not at least won a couple rounds. So, I mean, I think that's something. But at the very least, it's a good source of cards.
It's a really great source of cards, especially when it's half price. But even when it's not half price, I mean, if you win even a couple of games, I mean, even at the base price of you get 3 packs and 1 prize pack, that's less than 800. It's 800 gems to get 4 packs in the gem market, so that's still a better take.
Yeah, and if you participated in the event, they gave you 500 gold and I want to say 500 gems, something like that. So that was another 5 packs of cards just for participating in the event. I've had nonsense luck at actually buying M19 in person.
That's an understatement.
So I just randomly picked up a fat pack just for the hell of it, and so a fat pack is 10 packs, and out of those 10 packs I got 4 mythics. 2 of the Elder Dragons, Crucible of Worlds, and I forget what the 4th mythic was. And then the other day I picked up a single random pack of M19 and pulled another Crucible of Worlds.
Can I interest you in a game of Commander?
I mean, I feel like I also pulled Doubling Season from Battle Bond. However, that took significantly more packs to pull that thing.
This year for this year's Commander, they printed a Commander who wants a Crucible of Worlds so bad. So bad. Yeah,
I saw.
Probably wants a Crucible and a Magus. And Life from the Loam.
And a Remnant Excavator, the whole thing. He wants the whole package.
Sure.
So let's talk about what I found when I went sifting through my old cards. I found a full playset of Life from the Loam, of the Ravnica printing, the original Ravnica printing. I just had them laying around, apparently.
I mean, they were for your guild, though.
I know, they were. Like, I am all about Golgari. Like, I have never really had another theme in Magic that's fit me better than Golgari. I am kind of disappointed that they've raised the price again for the Commander Precons this year.
Did they?
Yes. They're pretty much straight up 40 each.
I mean, I would still pay 40
That's what they
each
were
for
last
any of
year.
these decks.
That's what they were last year. That was MSRP.
I think I gave 30 each for mine.
I think I got the set for 150, so...
Bel, if you ever do start playing Commander, might I interest you in the Gitrog monster?
I think I have a Gitrog monster.
The Gitrog monster seems like a commander you would enjoy. It is green and it is black.
And it plays nonsense tricks with the graveyard. Like, basically all commanders that are green and black.
Yeah, I mean, I like playing things from my graveyard. It's fun. I will say, though, like, probably my favorite mechanic that I've had the most fun of in recent expansions is Explorers. I really like Explorers.
You like exploring?
I like exploring, and I like Wildwood Walkers. I think that's what they're called. The thing that gets bigger as things explore and gives you health as things explore.
Those are quite good.
And I also really, really, really like the merfolk that double explores when it enters.
Jadelight Ranger.
Jadelight Ranger, yeah. I really wish that, I mean, it's going to be very hard for them to do this, but I would love if Arena had Commander.
I would expect Brawl first.
If they had Commander, that would basically mean they would have to do the rules for everything.
Right.
Yes. So Brawl first.
But I'd be okay with Brawl. Like, I would play Brawl. I did notice they also put in a whole new set of decks for people. And I don't know if like all the old 2-color decks that they had are still available to new players, or if all that's left is the single-color mono decks that came in. But as you play games...
I feel like if they're going to start with new players, having a single-color deck is a lot easier to work with.
Probably.
Although possibly less competitive. I guess it depends on the color.
As you win games, it unlocks 2-color decks. So I'm thinking this may be their progression scheme, is you work on the mono decks until you reach a point to where you've unlocked the multicolor decks, and then start mixing those up. So I guess the thing that like impresses me with Arena is, in reality, they give you a bunch of cards. Because, like, all those decks that you get at the start, those are your cards. They're not like, you can only play them in the deck. They're in your collection from that deck.
That's a lot better than duels used to treat you.
Right, like, so they give you this wide selection of cards, like, and you can mix and match them immediately, and start tearing apart those decks and using them for other things. And, like, there's not a lot of really, like, super powerful cards in those decks, but it's a lot of basics that you're going to use to build other things. Like, I don't remember which deck it was, but I think it was Vampires, you said, Kodra, that was like only a few cards away from one of the playable ones.
Both Vampires and Merfolk were not that far away from being reasonably playable. Up to a certain level, that is.
Yeah, that's my only real complaint that I've seen, is it's not really good about putting players of a certain skill level. Yeah, like you end up against people that have like the legendary icon for being like in the top whatever % of players, and maybe it's just that there's not enough people yet to seed a better matchmaking system. But anyway, we have probably run our length at this point.
Yeah, I think we're going a little long.
Yeah. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and especially this week, I would love to hear from our listeners as to what their feelings about Battle for Azeroth are. Are we crazy? Like, are we alone in our concerns about this stuff?
That's not a fair question. We already know we're crazy.
Well, that's true. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.